Hi everyone, I'm Jim. Welcome to Mystery and Mayhem. Today we'll be talking about building your own Wold Newton Universe library. The Wold Newton Universe, created by Philip Jose Farmer and expanded upon by Win Scott Eckert, began with a bang in 1795, when a meteor struck only 20 yards from two carriages carrying 5 married couples and 4 coachmen. More than one of the women were pregnant at the time. This austere group of people were unharmed but bathed in the ionizing radiation. These people went on about their business, not knowing that this event would change the destiny of the known world. The radiation caused a beneficial mutation of genes in those exposed, causing their descendants in large numbers to become great crime fighters, scientists, explorers, and even evil masterminds. These descendants and those associated with them throughout the decades are numerous and include Tarzan, Sherlock Holmes, Doc Savage, James Bond, The Shadow, Philip Marlowe, and even Professor James Moriarty, who was the second Captain Nemo. The list goes on and can even be traced back before 1795 to include Conan, Solomon Kane, Captain Blood, the Scarlet Pimpernel, etc. It is comprehensive and a rewarding goal for those who want to create their own Wold Newton library. The website created by Win Scott Eckert is basically a crossover chronology, very, very comprehensive, and it's essentially a pulp explorer detective non-powered hero universe, the Wold Newton universe. And there's specifically 4 core novels that I want to talk about and other tangential novels. But I'll start with the core novels that, if you want to start your own Wold Newton library, are essential to that, starting with Tarzan Alive. Now, this one was written by Philip Jose Farmer on the assumption that Tarzan was a real person and who existed on our world, in our world as a real person. Of course, his name wasn't John Clayton or Tarzan or Lord Greystoke, but it's a fascinating book. There's articles and addendums in the back of the book expanding more on these ideas, and there's a family tree as well in the book that basically names all the people who were affected by the radiation and their descendants, and it's just name dropping all kinds of fictional characters throughout the decades, and it's fascinating to read. The next book is Doc Savage's Apocalyptic Life, along the same ideas as Tarzan Alive, where Philip Jose Farmer goes through every adventure that was written by Kenneth Robeson or Lester Dent about Doc Savage. And again, there's some essays in the back that expand on the idea of the Wold Newton universe, adding more characters, another family tree. So that's that book. And there is another one by Philip Jose Farmer called The Other Log of Phileas Fogg. Mutant Supermen. About 100 years ago, a group of mutant supermen began playing a major role in our affairs. It is no accident that Tarzan, Sherlock Holmes, Captain Nemo, and Doc Savage were our contemporaries. Nor was it accidental that their biographers titillated their public with hints of their true natures, while not daring to more than part the veil. Just what was it that restrained them from telling all? And that's an essential book for your Wold Newton library. And the last of the core books, Sherlock Holmes of Baker Street by W.S. Baring Gould. And it's one of the core novels mentioned on Win Scott Eckert's website, which I will post below. And one of the primary things in this book is proving that Nero Wolfe was Sherlock Holmes' son. And this is the game that Philip Jose Farmer and Win Scott Eckert play, is they just play with characters. And for instance, Nero Wolfe being Sherlock Holmes' son, but proving that Tarzan and Sherlock Holmes were distant cousins, as well as the Shadow, and that kind of thing. They're all interconnected. It's a shared universe where even fictional characters that you think might not fit into the universe, there's kind of a way they do. And it includes everything. I've got about a dozen books within arm's reach that I could pick off the shelf and say, yeah, that's a Wold Newton character, because it's been studied and proven that somehow that character has engaged with one of the core Wold Newton family members. It's fascinating, really. Now onto the tangential novels. These are fun, and it's only a few. Like I said, I've only got a few of them, but I over the years, I've made a definitive effort to build a Wold Newton library. That's why I've got these core books and these other ones that you'll see. This here is called Sherlock Holmes in Orbit. It's a book of short stories, but there's 3 stories in here particularly that tie other characters in with Sherlock Holmes, which brings them into the Wold Newton universe. The Musgrave version brings Sherlock Holmes up against Fu Manchu. So bringing Fu Manchu into the Wold Newton universe. And there's other books as well that those 2 characters interact with one another. The Case of the Detective Smile and the Richmond Enigma. I think one is bringing Alice in Wonderland into the Wold Newton universe, and the other is bringing H.G. Wells' time traveler character into the Wold Newton universe by their interactions with Sherlock Holmes, who is a core Wold Newton family member again, because one of his progenitors was one of the people on the coaches when the meteor struck in 1795 in Wold Newton, Yorkshire. This 10 Years Beyond Baker Street is another Sherlock Holmes where he does go up against Fu Manchu, and he meets Dennis Nayland Smith. And so that's a good book to add to your library if you're able to find that. I was lucky enough to find this beautiful hardcover. Now, on to the next series of novels. I have quite a few Man from U.N.C.L.E. novels, and there's 4 specifically that tie into the Wold Newton universe. The Dagger Affair, number 4. So the Dagger Affair puts the Men from U.N.C.L.E. up against Moriarty, but apparently the original Professor Moriarty was the one who created their nemesis group, Thrush. So that brings Moriarty into the fold. The next book in the Man from U.N.C.L.E. series, The Vampire Affair, where Napoleon Solo and Ilya Kuryakin go up against Dracula. That's number 6 in the series. The Rainbow Affair, and that one brings in all kinds. That one brings in, again, back to my list, The Rainbow Affair, appearing in that book, Inspector Roger West, Sir Dennis Nayland Smith, Fu Manchu, Simon Templar, who was the Saint, The Avengers, not the comic book, the TV show, which is John Steed and Emma Peel, and Miss Marple, Father Brown, and Sherlock Holmes appear in that novel. So that's The Rainbow Affair. The next novel is The Invisibility Affair, which brings in Holly Griffin from H.G. Wells' Invisible Man. Actually, it's his niece or grandniece, but again, it's in the same universe that ties them all together into the Wold Newton universe. Now, here's some more by Philip Jose Farmer. This one is called Time's Last Gift. Now, it's a time travel novel with Tarzan as the main character, but he's not called Tarzan in this because I'm assuming copyright reasons. But the clues in the first letters of the title, TLG, which stand for Tarzan Lord Greystoke. So you know just exactly who the main character is in this book. And this one, actually, this probably should be a core book. The Adventures of the Peerless Peer, which has Tarzan, Sherlock Holmes, Watson, G8, The Shadow. I do believe it has Professor Moriarty. It's been a while since I've read it, but it's just a fun book to read. Now, the thing is with this book, I had to seek this one out because Philip Jose Farmer at the time didn't have permission to use Tarzan for this book, so he had to rewrite it and re-release it under the title of The Three Madmen, but he had to replace the Tarzan character with Mowgli from the Jungle Stories, Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Stories. So it probably didn't work as well as with Tarzan, but now there's a conjecture on Win Scott Eckert's, one of the essays on that website, that both Mowgli and Tarzan were involved in this story in parallel running stories throughout this, which is fascinating. And that works for me. I'm willing to suspend my disbelief, but that's a beautiful Nigel Bruce as Watson. So that's a neat book to get. And if you can find that, that's quite an addition to your Wold Newton library. Now, this is actually when Philip Jose Farmer got the rights to write an actual Tarzan book, and this is called The Dark Heart of Time. Tarzan's beloved mate, Jane, has been kidnapped, and the Furious Eight Men will let nothing stand in the way of rescuing her, not even a sinister safari whose target is Tarzan himself. With fierce Maasai trackers leading the chase, a trio of white hunters is hell-bent on capturing the Jungle Lord. But as his pursuers close in on their prey with uncanny accuracy, Tarzan races toward even greater danger ahead. For the trail leads to a bizarre, long-forgotten land boasting a multitude of strange and terrifying mysteries, the city built by God, the hideous hunter, and most shocking of all, the crystal tree of time, whose seductive powers could ultimately spell Tarzan's doom. In these two novels by Philip Jose Farmer, Flight to Opar and Haddon of Ancient Opar. And these tie into Edgar Rice Burroughs' City of Opar that appeared in the Tarzan novels in The Return of Tarzan and Tarzan and the Jewels of Opar. And these are cool books to get if you can get them. Now, these trade paperbacks by Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. These stories, and there's volume 2, these stories just blow the lid off the Wold Newton universe. On Win Scott Eckert's website, this volume 2, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, is probably the longest entry on his website because there are so many characters between these two trade paperbacks that are just crossed over and as a result, become part of the Wold Newton universe. So if you want a good library, these are awesome additions to add to your Wold Newton library. And as I said, there's tons more. All I can recommend for you to do is go on the website that I'll post below and just browse through all the entries of the crossover chronology and the characters. And if you're not aware of this, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised and fascinated by what you find there. And you probably already even have some books on your shelf that are part of the Wold Newton shared universe. So that's hopefully you enjoyed that, and that you kind of build your own library from that. I had these spread throughout my bookshelves, but I think now that I've done this, I might set aside their own bookshelf and put my Wold Newton specific books on their own bookshelf. I hope you're having a great Sunday. It's a beautiful day outside right now. And you take care and keep reading.